when I was allowed to write about what I wanted to write about, I'd usually pick something. Like the earliest thing I did was my freshman year of college. I did a literary conference. Ooh, sounds so fancy. It was I did an essay about William Burroughs. I don't know if you're... Yeah. He's like a...
Junkie?
Yeah, he wrote Junkie. That's the one I wrote about. Everyone always... whenever I bring him up, people are like, oh, Naked Lunch. And it's like, yeah, that almost made sense, that book. No, it's great. One page you're reading about a guy breathing on someone else on a subway. The next page, there's like a guy with a flamethrower at Chichen Itza. You know, it's a weird one. But I like Junkie and his follow-up, Queer. Yeah. He wrote it... I think he first tried to publish it like 2 years after Junkie was published. That was 1955. He tried to publish it in 1957. It wasn't able to be published until 1985 after a Supreme Court case.
Oh, wow.
Because it was so explicitly about a gay man, and it didn't end with that gay guy getting shot in the head. So it had to go all the way up to the Supreme Court, go through all of the... free country, freedom of speech. We have always been there. But, and I wrote about the two, like looking at them as like two sides of like queerness and addiction. And I did that, and then... That is really that was what I was always interested in. It was always like more queer literature or stuff about gender. So I do like Jane Austen. I think she's very funny. I think she's very witty, and I think it's an interesting little look back into like a historic moment. But I can't relate to a story that is ultimately about a guy who's like, I gotta marry all my daughters or else I'm gonna lose my land. I don't get that. I'm never gonna have land.
You could have land.
No.
A nice little... little plot.
Yeah, I'll buy like 10 square feet of the moon off of the internet. Yeah, that'll be my land.
Yeah. That's interesting. So the paper was about like kind of you're more likely to abuse or medicate yourself if you...
Well, yeah, because
society's, you just have the torment of that, so you have to escape.
You have to find something else. Even in Junkie, like one of the first time that Lee does heroin is after this guy who he definitely doesn't have a crush on offers it to him. And it's both a very literal story about addiction and also like a great metaphor for there is, and you really get it when you look at Queer, where it's so obvious that the character that Lee wants to be living out this big gay lifestyle that's not available to him, so I guess he's looking for this other thing to distract him from it.
Yeah.
And it's really... I'm so fascinated by like addiction and literature, where like what is the angle? What are we talking about here?
I don't know if it's something you don't have to talk about it if you're not comfortable. But is addiction something that you've? We do comedy with a lot of people that are like, I'm in recovery, so I know a lot of people.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's something that you...
I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm in recovery, but I would go as far as to say I'm like an alcoholic. I think I'm I never killed a family, so it does feel like stolen valor to say it.
There's time for that,
Yeah, there's still time.
Your opening joke that you tell sometimes.
I'll fuck your dad. Yeah. That one. I mean, it's destroying a family.
You can still destroy a family.
yeah, I could, but it won't be my drinking.
Yeah,
I don't drink anymore. I'm sober, I guess.
How long's it been?
Since March. So
yeah.
About 7 months.
Congrats! Yeah,
thank you.
I've been off the booze for a couple of years now too.
Yeah, we've I feel like we talked about that.
Yeah, I'm not courageous enough to label myself as an alcoholic yet, but I certainly was drinking a lot for a long time.
Yeah,
but very high functioning. Like I could always I never got a DUI. I'm very good at
Yeah,
knowing just where that line is. Like I never had that rock bottom where I had to address it. I just was right up against it for increasingly for 20 years.
Yeah, I love the Kyle Kinane line. Every time I think I found rock bottom, like the floor gives out and I find new depths. It's not bottom. It's just a cliff.
Yeah.
Like I grew up around a lot of addicts. Some of them were in recovery. Some of them were not. And when you grow up surrounded by all of that, it's very easy to kind of fall into the same habits. And for me, like the reason why I was drinking so much was largely like, I'm a trans woman. And so I was living in South Carolina. I grew up very religious. And so I couldn't really express that part of me. But when I'm drunk, I don't care. So then I say whatever I want to say. And then it just kind of becomes this crutch. It just became a crutch. And just slowly over time, as I got more honest with who I was and being myself in the rest of my life, I started drinking worse. Like it went from people who saw me drunk were always very happy to see me, sad that I was drunk, but I was such a good time to be around. And then I got mean, and I kept being mean, and then I threw up so hard on I shit on someone's rug, and it's like I gotta think about.
I should maybe rate it a little.
Yeah, a little.
Like you want to get invited. You want to be allowed to.
Yeah, get invited. I'd love to
be with the people.
Invited back to one party. That's all I want.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. There's a lot in there. I mean, because I kind of, you saying like maybe you're drinking to say what you want, but I think it seems like maybe you got there now without booze, because I think that's kind of your vibe as a comedian. Just you kind of say what you want. I don't think you're not like someone to me that scans as like you're saying shocking things, but you're not like trying to clean it, like you're trying to be like, if there's kids there, that's gonna be okay. You're kind of I don't know if you consider it like dark comedy. I hate labeling people's art, but
I think labels are. I think
they can be useful.
It's useful.
They can get you in trouble too.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at like branding, and if you want to be like the next John Mulaney, it's a good idea to look at like what is your brand. I started writing when I was like 7, and so I like to look at I didn't keep a journal, but I was writing stories. And so I kind of like to look at what I was writing at any given time and like kind of psychoanalyze myself. I look at recordings of my stand-up sets like I'm a college freshman who just learned who Marx is. That's my approach. I think
why Marx?
Because
I understood all of it except the Marx part. College freshman, okay.
Yeah, like a college freshman who just like.
What's the Marx part mean? You just heard about Marx, and
heard about Marx, and I'm trying really hard to use the word dialectical materialism.
Oh, I see.
And
okay,
I don't
like assimilation.
Yeah, I don't know what those words mean, but I want to sound smart.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get an A in my personal life journey. I mean, it's fair to call my humor dark. You said like I don't seem like someone who would stop and scan the room to see if there's kids. I have one time where there was just I did a show out in Marshall, and the show started. It was a couple Asheville comics and some guy from Tennessee. I was going towards the end, and it was just these 2 old ladies and then a little batch of gay people at the back. And apparently the common ground between people who remember Eisenhower's presidency and people who did poppers for the first time at 14 is sex jokes. And they figured that out and said they were all doing their sex jokes. And it's like, all right, well, that's the vibe of the room. So I'm just like, I don't, at the time, I didn't keep my notebook on stage with me. I was like, it looks unprofessional. I want to learn my bits. So I didn't have a notebook or anything.
Let's put a pin in that too, by the way.
Let's put a pin in that. I feel like I'm in therapy.
I need to be like writing down we'll get back to the notebook thing. I like that talk. But no, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, so sex jokes,
Marshall. And so everyone's doing, and so I just kind of like load up everything that I have that's like raunchy and like is just gonna hit that good middle ground. I get up on stage, I'm doing my first bit. The joke ends with a punchline about about pressuring straight men into having sex with me with using cocaine. And
You're like, oh, we're talking about sex? I got one.
I got so many.
And they're like, whoa, that's a little farther than. Was it like that?
No.
Or were they just like, holy shit, this is the best one yet?
They loved, like, the people that were there at the start of the set loved it. However, as I'm setting that part of the joke up, I'm doing that. I look up. There is 2 people, early middle age, walking in with their 12-year-old and an infant. And that was the moment where I was like, fuck.
I feel like that's their fault, though.
It is.
Because I have kids, and I don't just go, oh, yeah, it's comedy. People are just saying things into a microphone. I'll just bring them in. So I think that's their fault.
It might have been their fault, but it was nerve-wracking for me. You know,
I can see that too. Yeah,
it is just like,
because once you start it, it's like, well, I'm doing this story.
Yeah, I'm doing this
and then
story.
the room changes, and you're like, well, I'm in the middle of it now.
I'm in the middle. I got all I have is just more dick jokes in my pocket, and so I finished my joke and I started apologizing to the family, and they're like, oh no, it's okay. She's got TikTok, and I was like, and they were like, she's in high school, and I was like, listen, she might be in high school, but this is like a college class on sexuality. It turned out fine. I blame the booker because I was told it's a 21 plus show, and then they just didn't enforce it at the door. So say la vie.
Yeah, not on you at all. I did a clean show last weekend that I was prepared for clean, but it was like children, and then it was like do 30 instead of 20. And I like the booker a lot, so I'm not talking shit. But somebody got sick, and it was like, oh, I went from 20 like adult clean to 30 like children's entertainment. I mean, it's not, I don't really.
Yeah.
I tell my kids stories at night, but that's not really what I'm trying to do when I go out to the odd or this is my other life. Like I don't want to do magic for kids at birthday parties. So there is a line there that I'm trying to figure out how to ride. But yeah, Notebook on stage. Do you still kind of stick with that?
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah.
That was so dumb. I think it was a year that I learned a lot and figured out how to flounder and catch something when I have absolutely nothing to catch myself with.
Yeah.
But I think if I didn't have my notebook, some nights I would just kind of rip my hair out.
Yeah.
It's just good. And then I can do like a little joke where I just flip through and I find some dumb thing that I wrote while I was stoned 4 years ago and be like, oh, Crip walking to the electric slide. Is that anything?
Yeah, you can use it as you only get like 1 or 2 of them, but you're like, you can use it as a prop almost. I love the the legal pad. I think people almost feel like I feel like it encourages me to be less prepared because when I'm flipping through pages and I'm just trying to bring things to life that I've written, to me that feels more spontaneous than like memorizing what I'm going to say in my head.
Yeah.
It's like kind of counterintuitive. It's like the notebook means like it's going to be super loose because I haven't even tried any of this shit yet,
Yeah.
And you got the sound. I like the sound of the pages. I think that could be kind of like a percussive element.
Yeah, it's nice. You can get really frantic with it when no one's laughing.
Yeah, like Cody with the pad kind of, it's like it becomes it's like a mic and a stool, and now you got this other thing you can mess around with.
Props, comedy. we have so little. We get so little to work with.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. That's my favorite part. Because you got to come over and jam sometime. You can, out of the shot, I've been making art with like all these instruments for my whole life. But the stool, so little to work with. I think just a person with an idea, and you're up there just trying to elicit an involuntary response with just your body. I mean, that's the most incredible attempt. It's amazing. Even when it sucks, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Just that somebody would try.
Yeah, that someone would say those words and think they were funny. I went to a non-comedy open mic recently. It was Blue Ridge Pride had they do a monthly open mic. It's Queer and Now, and it was post Helene, and they wanted it, so it was just like open mic. And so I got to see all of these like musicians and more musicians and more musicians and poets.
Yeah.
And And then I didn't, and I ended up not going up that night. I had a friend who was like, I want to try stand-up comedy for the first time. And I was like, I'm glad you're doing it here, not at my mic.
Yeah, we're all filled up.
Don't try it at the odd.
It's like the perfect mic because it's a reasonable number of people and it's a great mic.
Yeah,
you're not trying to cram 30 people in there like on Wednesdays. That's a good mic, but it's just too many people.
But if we keep advertising it like this, and if people are like, I'll try comedy for the first time, we'll end up there.
Yeah.
But I was watching all these other performers, and then my friend went up and did comedy, and I realized something that I think I've known, but I've never like had the words for. Like if you're up on stage, and you're playing something that you really wrote from your heart, and you're playing it on a harp, you have a harp between you and the audience. You have a guitar between you and the audience. You have a band behind you to back you up in front of this audience. If you're reading poetry, you have this piece of paper that has the poem on it, and there's this like air of respect. If you're not getting a reaction back immediately, it's because you can think they're listening and they're digesting. And when you're doing comedy, it's you under a spotlight and your opinions.
Yeah.
And it's just fighting. I do think, because I've been playing music my whole life, I've been writing my whole life. I haven't danced because I refuse to be vulnerable physically.
Same. All three.
Yeah. And comedy is so earnest, and yet at the same time, no one takes it seriously.
Yeah, which just makes it even more of a challenge because, the person's got the poem written or the instrument, and people like subconsciously are like, oh, it's a craft there. But when you're just standing there talking, people are like, well, I do that.
Yeah.
I just talk with my friends and I make people laugh. It's like, it's not
the same thing.
So it's the hardest thing ever, and people are underestimating it, thinking it's the easy. So that just makes it harder, which is what's so cool about it. It's just,
and
it's Evel Knievel every time. That's how I feel. It's just like the hero's journey every time.
I mean, that's the problem.
That's why I don't think mics should be too supportive. I think sometimes there's certain mics that are like, it's like too supportive. It's like that. We shouldn't be supporting each other too much.
Yeah, Asheville's too nice. We need to shit on each other more. I was talking to some of the comics at the disclaimer mic last night, and I think it was Austin Elfers name dropping someone on this podcast who will be completely culturally irrelevant in 6 months. But he was saying that, and I've heard this from so many people, that like they kept doing comedy because the people in our scene are so nice. And my goal from day one has been to change that reputation.
That comes up a lot because like Cody loves to remind me when I started 9 years ago this month, actually at the Odd, and the Odd is the best it's ever been, by the way. So thank you for that, because that room does mean a lot to me. I've seen it with Tom, and then, but yeah, I'm getting distracted. What was the thing you just said?
I'm trying to change
the mean, because it used to be really mean. Like it used to be like Cody was meaner, and like there's this guy named Macon. There's mean. I probably shouldn't just go down the list of names, but it was a very mean. They bullied you so much, and Cody likes to mention that like we were funnier because of it.
Yeah,
that we've lost something by being too supportive. Like I feel like the Alley Cat. I haven't been to the Monday mic since the switch, but I feel like that's like the really supportive one, you know. And it's like if we're not careful, eventually we're going to be doing improv. That's what happens. That's what happens when it gets too supportive. It's like, you know,
yeah. I mean, the hot seat is already half improv.
Yeah,
you can just sign up and go up and be asked questions.
And I appreciate it, but it should be. You should be terrified.
It should be terrified.
You know, you'll pull something better out of yourself.
Listen, Ryan, if we weren't on mic, I would be doubling and tripling down on this bit and be like, yeah, we should put kids back in factories. I don't know what I will say.
You can do that on here.
I could, but then there's going to be video evidence. It's going to get clipped out in like 20 years. I'm going to be like running for president or something. Yeah. It's just going to be clipped out of context.
I don't clip that way. I don't clip on shock.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Vulnerability more than
I did watch the I have watched a couple of your podcasts, and I like the way that you edit. This is now complimentary, and what I was gonna say was, yeah, you might have been funnier when everyone was meaner, and everyone might have been funnier when everyone was meaner. And in the same way, I was also a way harder worker when I was getting hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Like, sure, we could be. It's just my earnest opinion is that there is like a productivity fetishism that we have in our little society that we run around in, where it's like, oh, you got to be the most productive, you have to be the best artist.
Yeah.
And pushing ourselves towards that is draining and awful. And I think Kurt Vonnegut in one of it, and I think it was Bluebeard, was talking about. It used to be, you'd be living in a community of like 10,000 people, and you would be like a really good dancer, and then everyone would delight in you getting on the dance floor and dancing, and it was just like, it was like a community celebration, and everyone's so happy, and you're the best dancer in your community. And nowadays, because of things like the radio and now the internet and TV, you might be the best dancer in like your little 10,000 people
Nobody gives
community,
a shit because you're competing against the
very best in the world,
which is on everyone's phone.
Yeah, and so we feel so pressured, and like it's really a tragedy. Like the way that he wrote it was like, and then like one day you might have that in you, and then one day you get too drunk at a wedding, and then you hop up on a table and do a perfect tap dance routine, and it's the toast of the night, but you don't get to have that part of you for the rest of until the next wedding. You know?
Oh, I've thought about that a lot. Just being like the guy who could like lead a song, like how valuable that was 100 years ago. There's somebody down the street that can like carry a tune. Let's get him over here. We want to hear music. And then now it's just like,
we have
every
Spotify.
Beatles. So it's like, why, that it really diminishes that. I feel like comedy is inherently more like you got to be in the room for it, the music. Like, which I like.
It's theater. It's
like,
theater.
Yeah, because so it's somehow as all these other things are, like people don't go see. Comedy is like bigger than it's ever been, I think, now. So it's like, it's somehow comedy is like, defying those odds where people are still going out. That's my favorite thing about comedy is that I don't have to bring people to the show because nobody is ever buying a ticket because like, oh, Ryan Cox is performing, let's buy. It's like, there's comedy tonight, and then I can go perform because there's a crowd. Whereas like in music, if your band plays, it's like you have to get people to come see you. Like people are just kind of like, oh, the stand-up comedy, cool, I'll go check it out. I hope they stay that way.
I hope they stay. Yeah, well, I think it's the benefit of comedy. Something that comedy and improv have that no one else does is that it's different every night. And with comedy, you at least know that they're saying things that are similar at other nights, and it's still funny. And improv, it's like, well, we might just listen to someone yell about hats for 15 minutes. And if you see that at a comedy show, it's rehearsed. But it's a little different every night. The riffs are always a little different. And then maybe something happened recently. I don't know. Maybe you had a weird weather incident, and then something happened in politics. And then both of those things overlap, and then everyone comes out to the comedy show because they don't know how to laugh about it, and they need to. And I think that's something that we can provide.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, what do you think your percentage is as far as like, saying things that you've, the beats, the words, and then trying to throw in a little like, here's what happened today or what's going on in the world. Because I'm trying to just every year try to nudge my act and what I do more towards spontaneity, and not just saying. It's almost like, what's the point? Like I don't think I'm going to be like a famous comedian or make a bunch of money from comedy. So I might as well have each time I'm on stage feel as new and alive as it can be.
I think mine is like 99-1. I have
99 written.
99 written. 99% written and 1% more just like, oh, here's how my day been. That's also a lot of my comedy is kind of just, so here's the weird conversation I had at a bus stop, and some of it is like a conglomeration of just like 8 weird guys I've met, and I'm like, each of you had like one funny thing.
So make it one guy,
make it one guy who's really funny.
Right. Because they don't need the extraneous details. Just make it as the simplest.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I guess it's kind of cheating because sometimes I'll get like yelled at walking down the street, and then it's like, well, 5 hours later, I'm at a comedy show and I'm talking about it, and then a month later, I'm still talking about it like it happened earlier.
Oh yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, this is fine.
Yeah,
fine. I'm doing.
You don't want to be like 3.5 months ago. I always kind of wonder if I need to say anything. I'll be like, last week or recently, but then. Like, sometimes I'll listen back. It's just like saying the word like. It's how many of these things do I even need to say? I love just trying to chisel off every extraneous syllable.
Yeah.
The podcast is interesting because this is all off the cuff. And I listen back and I'm like, man, like half of my words are unnecessary. And I think that's part of my goal with all this is to get to where I can, with the fewest number of utterances, make the greatest impact,
Yeah. That's the writer's problem is all these words, and then you like to use all these words, and then you look back and you're like, I only needed like 2 of them.
Yeah.
What got you? And let me interview you for a second. Why did you start doing comedy? What was it? Was it like the first time your kid shat on your shirt, and then you were like, I got to tell someone about this?
Well, I've done the music for like over 30 years. So it's for me, it's like an extension of that. Just like trying to make up something that you take to the stage, and then you connect with people and you get community. So I think it's, to me, comedy and music the same thing. But now I'm just doing it with just naked, with no like guitar or band or any of that. So it's just making sounds, tone and rhythm, trying to like. So it's the simplest way to put it is it's just like an extension of music. But I also think when my kid was born, my first kid, like I had written all these like sad songs, and then I was in a band where I yelled a lot and was kind of angry. I was just like, I don't think anybody wants to see like a 40-year-old dad, like, like when you're like a hot 27-year-old, it's like you could be like up there just like I could just feel this, like nobody wants to see grandpa like angry.
I don't know. DRI still sells out shows, so
yeah, that's a pretty singular. I mean, yeah. So I think it. I don't know. And like Tom Peters, who started the Odd, was like, we were in bands together. So I just remember as the comedy scene was forming in Asheville, he was like posting stuff, being like, "Here's an open mic video," and I kept being like, maybe I could go over. Like I was like years of just being like, could I really do that? I was terrified of public speaking, even, and then it's been so great. I mean, it's been great for not even for the like I did it for pure narcissism. I'm like, I want them approving of me and validating me. But now I'm like, just the people I've met and, all the community has really been the biggest win. And then now the podcast is like a year old. So I'm like, this is actually becoming like as interesting as the getting up on stage.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. Like you just know you're onto something when you like, you start it for one reason, but then it just unfolds and it just keeps being like bigger than you could have planned. So like that's only happened to me a few times in my life. So that comedy is just unfolding in some unforeseen way where it's like giving me back. People are like, oh, how do you like have time to do podcasts and go out to open mics when you have a job and a family? And I'm like, it gives me the energy to do those things, all that drudgery.
Yeah.
It's like knowing that I get to get up and do a set at the Odd is like, that's like the light at the end of the Monday or Tuesday,
Yeah. And you're not drinking, so what else are you going to do?
Yeah, I know. And I think comedy helped me with that too. I think like, it's like comedy is its own drug. I started to feel like, why would I want to be like a sluggish, like it's being up on stage is so like, it's just such a physical and emotional high that like booze almost like takes away from it, so I think the comedy kind of became my new, like, I like these extreme things. I want to feel these extreme things just being on stage. Like if I'm sleepy and then I'm about to go up, like it's gone, it like changes your physiology just to do a set.
It's very much so, like there's a reason why the best comics are not alcoholics but cokeheads.
Have you read Running the Light?
Running the Light? No, I've not.
I'm listening to it. It's on Spotify, so I've been listening to it. And each chapter's, the book. It's by Sam Talent. So it's like it's this. Yeah, it's a book about the stand-up who's like an old cokehead. It's definitely like cocaine and jokes, but it's interesting. It's a good read on Spotify, or I don't know if that counts as reading, but like each chapter is read by a different comic. Like Kyle Kinane wrote the intro to it. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, what is this thing? What is comedy? That's kind of like what this podcast is. I think it's kind of an intangible thing, what it actually is. Like, we all kind of have a slightly different view of this fleeting sketch that you can, like, you know when it's working, but then that same performer the next night tries to do the same things and it's gone. It's like, so this podcast is sort of like trying to, like, put our heads together. Like, what is it, you know? Like,
what is it? What is comedy?
Yeah.
I think...
Why does it work? How does it work? How can I get better at it by learning from other people?
Oh God, I wish I was one of those, like, I don't know what I'm thinking until I say it, because I have every thought at once, and it's like I got to write it all down so I know what's coherent and what's just like chef yelling at me, you know.
You actually write it out like longhand?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I think comedy is it's just commiseration. Like look back at like the oldest comedy that we have preserved is things like the Lysistrata. I think it's the Lysistrata. It's the Greek play where all the women stop fucking the men until the men promise to stop going to war because war is bad. And it's these moments, like what we have preserved of comedy, what's lived through all of it is like the thing that's going to give a little bit of levity to the very serious shit going on in your life.
Yeah.
I think that's what comedy is.
Yeah, like being silly about the darkest stuff.
Yeah. Because like the point of comedy is to me, is laughing at something you'd otherwise be crying about.
Yeah, for sure.
I was great company through the storm, I think. Like because I didn't stop making jokes the whole time. Yeah,
I was the same in my family, and definitely was told like more than once that I was kind of being callous and insensitive. And I'm like, no, I'm like, this is how I'm processing this, you know. I just haven't been able to hang out with comedians all month, so
so you guys are getting it.
Would you rather be at a comedy show? We don't want this from you. We want to feel safe with our dad. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about. I mean, the question there is: would you rather be hearing jokes you don't want to hear? Or do you want to deal with seeing your dad cry for the first time? Like that's the That should be reserved for your 20s when you're at like your grandparents' funeral, you know?
I still never seen my dad cry. I'm sure that's part of the reason I do stand up.
Yeah.
I think my kids have seen me cry at some point, like through a song or something. Like a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Inside Out 2.
Didn't see that one.
Yeah, I mean, you would have no reason to. I mean, I have kids. So
you have children.
And then I'm like, this is a great kids movie, but I wouldn't be there seeing it.
Yeah. I liked the first one. I saw the first one. I liked it. I was in like, I don't know, high school. I think I went with my niece. But
yeah. I mean, it's cool just being like. I mean, stand-up's a little like that too, and having kids in Asheville. I mean, there's just so much more like vulnerability is power, and like the Inside Out movies. I mean, I didn't even hear anything like that until like the last 10 years of my life, honestly. So it's cool just to be a part of like, I don't know. I think comedy can kind of keep you hopefully from becoming like a rigid old person who stays stuck.
I don't know. I feel like we've definitely seen a few rigid old people who are stuck come through.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, you know, just because you start trying comedy when you're 50 doesn't mean you're gonna magically be fixed by us.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't really think about that. I always just assumed that those weird old guys were just telling the same jokes about fucking in zero gravity from the time they were 20 until now.
We need those guys because if I don't want to be the weirdest oldest guy, you know what I mean? Like there needs to be like 4 of them. Yeah, I tried. Gio needs to start coming back out.
Gio, we miss you. Come on. I try to be strategic, like, because I run an open mic, and so I kind of try to be strategic on which of the old men I bully, because it's like it's a niche. Like no matter what you do, you will end up with like 2 to 5 weird old guys at minimum. Worst case scenario, it's all weird old guys.
Yeah.
But so it's like who do I keep around? And you know, it's not and for me it's like I just got to find the ones where I feel like they'd bark at the weirder ones. Yeah, I like cats, but I want my old men to be dogs, to bark at the dogs. You know, like
I was with you till that last animal part.
that last animal. You know, like the I've people sometimes will talk about like trans women. It's like, oh, you don't know a woman's experience. And I swear to God, when I first started hosting shows, every night my lower back was getting touched like every 5 minutes. But like that's the thing. There's some
Like specifically kind of by like older men. Yeah.
And there's like if I have a guy like you around and I'm talking to you, and then some like old guy who kind of has a crush on his granddaughter, like that guy's not going to try to shoot a shot with me with you right there, because then you're going to be like old and man at him.
Yeah.
And he's going to feel ashamed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's even worse. So he might wait till you're alone together and then be like, now's my chance to be creepy. Who's going to believe you?
Oh, Ryan, it's cute you think I let myself be alone.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't sound like a good decision now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I think about that even just being like older than most people in the scene, like just with like hugging and stuff like that. I'm like, what is the etiquette with that? Because I don't ever want to assume, just be like, get over here. And people are like, who's this? Like I think it's kind of almost better to like withhold, than like when you're not sure, than to like.
Oh,
because I know I represent. The older I get, the more I kind of represent, like not Trump, but just like just the old
that
white
brand
dudes
of guy.
yeah, this is our world. We do what we want. It's which I've never been like that, but I can just tell sometimes when I get up and it's like alt and everybody's in their 20s. It's like you can kind of scan that way, and then you try to play with that or shatter that, but also you can only be what you are.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But I do like that you're like withholding physical affection from everyone because you're not sure, like a good father.
Yeah.
I was worried about you last time I was on your podcast, because you were talking about like, I scheduled the time I spend away from my kids, and that's not how that's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You want your kids to be boring? No, like disappear for a week. Leave no note and leave your phone on the kitchen counter so they hear it ring when they call you. That's
I mean, I really do think that it's possible they'd turn out better if I did stuff like that. It is this new experiment to be like, all your feelings are valid, like I never seen what happens to a kid who gets that much approval and love. I mean, so I'm doing it because it feels right, but it's like maybe they'll turn out shitty because I was there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're just entitled to have a father in your life who loves you. Maybe that makes you, that might make you shitty. Like, I mean, I probably wouldn't even be doing all this cool stuff if my dad just one time, like, validated me. I might be way more of a loser,
Yeah.
I really do think about that. But, yeah.
I'll call you in 10 years when I'm thinking about having a kid, and I'll see how your kids are turning out, and then I'll decide how hard I'm hitting mine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a weird one, too, because I have that joke about not hitting kids. It's like my oldest closer. I'm trying to weed it out, but I need to do it.
But nothing's better.
Yeah, but then sometimes people still will be like, well, you got that joke about hitting kids, like people will still be like, summarize it like the opposite of what it is,
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, you think it's funny when kids get hit. I'm like, what? That's not what I feel like I'm saying the opposite of that. But
people are going to read you how they're going to read you. It's like what you said a minute ago. Like you can only be what you are.
Yeah.
You can't change what people hear when you say, when you speak. It's the worst part about any kind of writing is that you have to, any kind of art really, but especially when you're, you make a song and then you can listen to people talk about the guitar line for all of history, or the painting, and people are like, oh, the brushstrokes, the texture, and when it's just the words, like you can talk about sentence structure, you can talk about rhythm, but you are gonna sound like a pretentious asshole. And so much of it is just like talking about like, oh, this is what you said. Mm-hmm. It's the worst part. I've been writing my whole life, so like I get it.
Same.
Yeah. People in high school, they thought I was going to be like I had this moment when I was like, I don't know, 14, 15, and I was like, I'm so edgy, and I was writing horror stories a lot. And around that time was like, oh God, what was it? The big shooting that was down in Florida. You know, like the big school shooting. Is this narrowing it down? You know, the
Yeah,
big
so
school
many.
shooting
I
that
mean,
happened like 10 years
this
ago.
is
Do
like after
do you know what I'm
Columbine,
talking
but
about?
before-
Yeah, after Columbine,
Where
before
was
the
Sandy
one last
Hook?
week. No, it's Sandy Hook. It
That was
wasn't
up north somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
This is
it was
embarrassing how
it
little
was, It was like Park City.
Not only do I
High.
joke about hitting kids, but I don't really give a shit about the ones that have been.
The ones who died. Well, yeah, they're not your kids. It was like the Park City shooting, and I think it was around that time, and then about twice a school year until my senior year, I'd get called into the counselor's office, and they'd be like, "Are you good? Do your parents own guns? No? All right. That's good. That's good."
Do you know how you could get to one? Like,
Yeah. Have you considered it? Do you know about any of these gun shows that are local? We're not giving you the addresses or the dates, but I just want to know if you're familiar.
like you just scanned as a kid that was maybe just a little more like,
I don't know. I was like bullied, and I was like dark and angsty.
yeah.
And I blame my mom. She was goth, so I just turned out like that. But yeah, and
That's cool. Goth mom.
goth mom,
That's
punk
pretty-
dad. I have so many issues. You don't stay wearing band shirts from the 90s when you're in your 40s and 50s
shit.
unless you've moved on from that thing that happened in 92, you know?
Whoa, the 90s? Is your dad like almost my age or?
My dad was born in 1968.
Okay.
Is that like a sigh
79.
of relief?
Yeah. I was like the 90s. It's like their 90s t-shirts for bands, not cool.
It's not that they're not cool. It's just that, like, sometimes you could. And my parents are going to watch this. I'm not asking you to take this out,
Really?
but
They're gonna watch this?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's sweet.
Yeah, well, they don't get to hear my voice otherwise. I love you both.
I love it. I think that punk and goth sounds all right with me.
Yeah. But, like, I'm just going to psychoanalyze them for a second because I'm too cowardly to do it to their face.
That's
Like,
perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, it's just sometimes you can really see it in the way that like an older person will carry themselves, that like they haven't moved, like they didn't heal from something, like they moved on, obviously, like they're not still living in it, but like they haven't healed, and they're just so convinced that like just like moving one town over is the same thing as like overcoming. And now we cut, and it's going to come back, and we're going to be talking about something silly.
Moving one town over is the same. Like, you mean like avoiding?
Yeah, it's
versus
like
staying, like pushing through it and staying
Yeah.
like the difficult things.
Yeah, it's not even just like not doing the difficult things. Like it's leaving something behind is just as hard as healing from something, I think.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is a lot more like, well, you were talking about like with Inside Out 2, only in the last 10 years we've been
Right.
talking about like how strong vulnerability is.
Yeah.
And like the big, like everyone should be in therapy is
Right.
is also a really modern push.
But sometimes it's strong to know when to be like, hey, I'm just gonna like move on.
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't
not
think
that.
so.
You're saying the opposite of that.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
saying quite the. I think it's very good to stop and heal, and it's I think it's like a sad thing looking at like older members of my family or just like people in my life who are like my own age who didn't have access to that like line of thinking, who didn't have like an environment that was at all affirming, that was at all like talking about healing or like overcoming, or just like where like my like one of the things that made me quit drinking so hard was like I had these friends who were my own age who were drinking until they couldn't remember who I was, and it was because that was just like what their family did. It was like the bad things happen to you and then you drink and you wallow, and it's sad because like it's such a recent conversation, and it's so new for a lot of us that you could really tell that I just got back into therapy.
Congrats, that's great. If you can find a good one.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad to not just be seeing a therapist who's like, I think you have anxiety, and it's like, yes, but can we?
Yeah. Go beneath that. Like,
Can we dig a little deeper? Nope.
Yeah.
$75. Cool.
Lexapro prescription.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could get prescribed one thing. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I'm just being sad and wallowing and then thinking about things where I'm like, I'm not going to say this into a microphone on a camera that's going to be going on Spotify, but
Yeah.
I am thinking about it.
I mean, that's what's great about this is I think it's a really nice compliment to the sets because it's like you don't have to, there doesn't have to be a laugh.
Yeah.
You don't have to, oh shit, it's been 18 seconds since I got validated with laughter. You can just keep, see what's at the end of that.
It's so much nicer. It's so much nicer to just get the laugh. That is something I've had to get over with my therapist, and I had one therapist who staunchly refused to laugh at all of my jokes. I think it was.
I definitely make my therapist laugh, and I'm like, I do it. I'm like, all right, I needed that.
It feels good, but I am trying so hard to like never do it again.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be funny in therapy. I'm almost tired of being funny generally in my life. I think I'm gonna keep doing comedy because I like the attention. But so don't worry. I'm still y'all are still stuck with me. But
I don't know. I just feel more alive. It's like a real present moment. Like so much virtual living and task oriented. Like there's just when comedy is just the most present. I guess like there's sex. There's other things that are like just you're like this. I'm in a moment with people, and that's what I love about it. It's
when that's weird. When I'm having sex, I'm thinking about the sandwich I'm going to eat later. Yeah, that was a weird thing. That was if living through Hurricane Helene and all of the aftermath. I didn't expect to feel more alive when I was like walking 5 miles sweaty trying to find like food and water and information and just figure out what's going on. I didn't realize that was going to be something that was going to like make me like feel present and in my body.
Oh yeah, like I've been experimenting with posting every day. I think it's probably just ruining my life, but and I'm actually done for a minute, but I was like, let's just see if I can get booked more, see if there's some benefit to just post. I have like so many hours of podcasts, like I might as well just like post some of these reels. And I remember then like the hurricane happened, so I couldn't even be on my phone for a while, and I remember like the day that I pulled Instagram back up and I just looked at it and I was like, I had just been like walking around sweaty, so present, and just looking at that, like the squares being like, I've been looking at this like 30 times a day, like this represents me, Yeah. And like there was this, and then of course I just like fell right back into it and that awareness was gone. But there was that moment where I was like, this is like the fakest bullshit of all. I mean, it's a cliche thing I'm saying, but it's like, I really had a new awareness of it because I was forced to not pick it up. Like I've never not had internet for 5 days since the internet was born. I mean, that's like that was the longest period of time.
Oh,
and I was on this like real posting spree before, so I was kind of hyper like on the internet. So yeah, I don't know. It's good. It's good to be present. It's good to find things that make you present. I mean, that's kind of the trick of this podcast. It's like this idea that like when you talk to people, they're like on their phones or yawning, but then if you like put a microphone in front of them and put a camera on, people like will really have a present conversation with you.
Yeah. Now I have to think about everything I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm like,
But nobody really cares. Like, people worry that they're going to get I mean, nobody really cares. There's so many hours of...
Yeah, there's so many hours. No one's going to dig through all of these, but what if someone does,
Yeah.
What if someone's crazy?
There's a couple people out there that do that.
Yeah.
I think Clay Jones listens to a lot of them.
We love you, Clay.
Yeah.
You're so... what was it that I said? It was like the two of you are the ones that I project all my daddy issues onto without saying anything.
Yeah, that was so funny. Because like I don't always catch those things, but then I listen back to it and I was like, oh, that's really funny. And then I was just saying it in my mind, and I was driving my family down the road. I just started laughing. They're like, "What's so funny?" That was good.
Well, girls, you have a new sister. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, you can stay in the shed.
I'd love it. It's so muggy in here.
Yeah, it's very hot. With the temperature's tricky, and the light. I'm kind of keep glancing at like, it's kind of you're here for the experimental phase of the shed.
I'm happy. Like, wash me out. I'm pale enough. It really doesn't make much of a difference. You could like open that window and get a breeze.
Yeah,
coming through.
Yeah, maybe that is a good idea. I'm gonna try that actually. It does get sweaty in here. You should come back sometime. And do you have any interest in jamming? Like, you don't need to like make coherent sounds or play songs unless you want to, but just kind of making sounds.
Yeah, that sounds great. I've always I'm
really into drumming, so I have like a bass and a bass amp and a guitar amp. I've had Mike Clare has jammed over here. Josie's come over and jammed. I kind of thought it'd be fun to get like multiple comedians together and just try to like make just bash on. It doesn't even have to be like sound like music. Just make sounds.
I've always been interested in drums. I've played strings my whole life, and I'm over it.
Drums are so amazing. I've been like drumming hardcore for about 3 years now, and it's just like it's like a bubble of air, and you can adjust the tension on. I mean, it's just there's no words for it, but it's the most physical. It's almost like comedy or being in a present moment, like hitting drums. It's like when I'm playing guitar, there's still some part of me that's like keys and notes, and there's still some logical. But hitting drums is just like so transcendent. It's just very physical. I don't know.
Yeah, you get the feedback.
Yeah, the feedback. Yeah, it's just like comedy that way. And it's like rhythm. It's a rhythm thing. It's a tone thing. I think drumming and comedy are like so similar.
Yeah, isn't like there was the badumts
Yeah.
and all that, like
Drum
famous.
shot, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah, that's true. It's not like a guitar chord.
Yeah.
It's drums.
Yeah. It's just a beat.
Yeah.
You don't have to argue about which G7 you're playing.
Yeah.
Is that a thing that you argue about which one? I don't know anything. I played
that
punk.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I just played punk
There's
music.
no sevens in punk. It's the power chord, right?
Yeah. I had 2 fingers and a dream. That was it.
Yeah, that's all you need. Like every amazing Ramones song is just, and most of Nirvana, just that. Just that power chord shape can go forever.
Distortion, some muting, and then change the lives of teenagers everywhere.
Yeah, I love it though. This is the Shed is like a place that I'm interested in like collaborating more. I'm glad that the podcast is here, even though it's
experimental. You're figuring it out. You got this weird like corkboard wood on the wall.
Yeah,
it's cute.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah. Is this like intentional?
Yeah, Emily bought the corkboard. I think it's supposed to absorb sound, but I don't know that it really does. So part of it was like soundproofing, and then we have some panels to put on the ceiling.
I think the point of soundproofing is you like have it consistently throughout the room, though.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet, but it's just like it'll suck up some of the sound. It does sound better when you put stuff on the walls. Like when it was just an echoey box, it sounded horrible, and then more carpet and like curtains and stuff. So like when we jam, we close the curtains so it's like a dark box. And you turn like even in the middle of the day, you just turn the lamps on, and I mean it's incredible.
Yeah,
it's just like comedy. It gets people together and just like shake the walls.
Yeah. Do you compare everything to comedy? Would you go to the French Laundry and get served like duck foie gras and just like, oh, this is like a set I did at the music hall in 2017?
Probably yeah. Or music. Probably like music is like longer. I've gone farther and longer with that, but those two, yeah. I think I'm an analogy person because I'm not well rounded. So I'm like I know the 2-3 things.
Yeah.
So I'll just compare this thing to that thing I know, and then I'll use that as instead of just learning.
Well, if it makes you
economics or whatever.
Makes you feel any better, you look rounder to me every day.
Hey, what the fuck's that?
Oh, you said you wanted everyone to be meaner. I'm just trying.
That's the Lexapro there, I think.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah.
Like chiller and a little chubbier.
Yeah, that's great. You're entering your Santa Claus era.
Jesus. You know Paul Z? You know that guy?
Yeah, I know Paul Z. I take the bus.
He's one of those dudes.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So he drives you?
On occasion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just do you have a moment where you acknowledge?
I'll say hello, Paul, and he'll say hello, Julia, and then I'll go sit at the back of the bus with my headphones on.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm standing on the side of the road and he honks at me. I think that's. I'm so sad he's not like regularly at comedy anymore because I felt like that was like an initiation, right? Was when Paul started honking at you on his route.
Yeah.
That's when you've made it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. he will leave me comments and stuff, but they never make sense. Like, he's just a very weird way of using the internet. Like, I can always feel that it's supportive and nice, but I'm just like, it's always just a little. But we love you, Paul Z.
We love you. Thank you for everything you've done.
He's Santa Claus. I'm pretty young, not that round.
Yeah, you're more like
hot and young and skinny forever.
Yeah, you're like Tim Allen at the beginning of Santa Claus.
I haven't seen that, but that doesn't seem like a compliment. But that's good.
Yeah,
we're bringing the mean back.
Yeah,
that's But it's weird that I want more mean because I've never been mean. I've always been really nice. I'll always be nice to new people that do comedy. You know?
I try to be nice to everyone, but if you tell me you're from Greenville, I'm gonna be mean. I had there was this. I don't even remember what I was saying. It was just one guy. He didn't have a great set. He was from Greenville, and so I was like, well, I'm gonna make fun of everything that comes out of his mouth for the rest of the night, and I'm doing that, and I'm wearing one of my denim jackets. I had a patch on the shoulder, and it said "Build Communities," and I said. I think at some point I went over the line. I don't know. But I went over the line, and he pointed at the patch, screamed, "Fuck you," left, and I've never seen him again. I've asked the Greenville comics, and they're like, we don't know what happened.
He pointed at the patch like,
yeah,
you're a hypocrite or something?
Yeah, and then he left.
If you hadn't been wearing the patch, but you... That's funny.
You could have been mean if you chose a different jacket.
I do remember there was one time this year where somebody came up from South Carolina and they did like a Trump impression and their act at the end. And then you were like, and if you see him in South Carolina, it's just that impression the whole time. I hate this region. Your next comic.
Yeah, that sounds like me. Yeah.
I remember I hate this region.
I hate this region. Yeah. I grew up in South Carolina. I live in North Carolina now, and it's like I'm so sick of the Carolinas. I'm almost willing to take Kentucky just to be like, I just want I want to have a different thing to call myself.
Yeah.
Carolinian. That just sounds weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm coming from Tennessee, so I'm like, it's pretty nice up here. This is it's pretty good.
Yeah,
so it's got north in the name. It's got north in the name.
North in the name. It's so much closer to the coast.
Yeah, we voted for Obama that one time. You know, got some good things happening.
Yeah,
here.
we almost voted for Kamala.
Yeah, because like Tennessee is just red forever. But yeah, fucking politics.
You don't want to talk about the election on your podcast. I don't have any like super advanced opinions. I don't have a ton to say about it. I rarely have anything to say about current events.
Yeah,
but you can use that for a reel.
I think I could caption it with some like K's. X's maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's definitely all consonants.
Yeah.
Whatever that was. Those are the fun captioning moments where you're like, ooh, what's
what are they trying to articulate?
Yeah, there's something back there I wanted to circle back to. We're talking about like approval, you know? Like I think that is such a contradictory thing in comedy because you want the validation, but then so much of like the great modern comedy is like this person doesn't give a fuck, you know. Yeah. They don't want validation, and that's what works about it. So it's like, and I think as comedians, we're on different, like that's a spectrum of where, you know, how much we present as like desperate for their approval.
Yeah, and I think the key to being good at comedy is learning how to act like you're not doing it for attention.
Yeah,
like because it's.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, the very first comedy show I ever went to was in Columbia, South Carolina. It was at the New Brooklyn Tavern, and it was Sean Finnerty, I think his name was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know him.
Yeah, it was a good show. I was like, I don't know, like 19, and they had a couple local comics opening up for him, and one of them told a joke, it bombed. And then he started going down into a split. I was like, yeah, I like you guys. If you don't think something's funny, you're just like, fuck you. And like it was that for like the rest of his 15-minute set.
Sounds painful.
It was. And like at the time I was like, well, that was awkward. And now I'm looking at him like, oh, that guy, they put that guy in over his head. he wasn't ready for the 15.
Yeah.
It's fun. You just have to kind of learn to hear the crowd not laugh and go, well, I think that was a hurdle for me.
Yeah.
I was so doing it because I was like, I need someone to tell me I'm hot and funny right now. And so, yeah.
And again and again and again. Not just,
not
just like once. It's
every 20 seconds.
Whatever we all have our number of seconds, but it's like.
Yeah. And I'm willing to drag it out. I will happily do a joke a bit where it's kind of 3 minutes of me going off and being crazy, but just so long as I get that laugh at 3 minutes and 1 second, like that's all I need.
Yeah, I'm trying to sit more I'm trying to be comfortable with more silence, but also just get quieter in those moments too. That's one thing I'll notice in those sets. I'll listen back and I'm just doing my loud voice the whole time, just like keeping it up here. And I think even just like starting bits kind of quietly, like what you said about doing it, disguising the fact that you are trying to get the laugh. I almost think speaking quietly, like, Isaac, I really enjoy watching Isaac. I think it's like technically everything you shouldn't do when you're public speaking, kind of like, hey,
but it's all intentional.
Yeah,
it's all intentional.
And
that's why it works.
It works amazingly. And it's like, yeah, I'm like, I'm kind of, we watch each other every week, and it's like, yeah, I want to kind of like maybe try to start bits with a little bit more of that. And then if you end up yelling or something at the end, there's more of a crescendo,
Yeah.
It's more powerful.
I don't shout enough. It's very cathartic. There's a lot of stuff that...
Yeah, you're not a shouter.
No, I'm not. I shout
on
occasion.
stage. I don't know.
Yeah. Not on stage, not in life. I'm pretty docile.
Yeah, you kind of have a little of that, like what I was saying about Isaac. I think I kind of see you as you kind of are like, there's almost like there's people that like make you want to lean in, like there's some secret, and then there's people that are like, blah, they're just like shouting it at you, and then both can be amazing, but it's like,
it's about finding your style.
Yeah.
There's some stuff I want to go back to. Like when I was first starting to write bits, I would write the jokes that would go like I said, 3 minutes, no laughs, and then I'd hit a joke. It was just 3 minutes of setting up that one joke. And I want to go back to doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it when I first started because it was like, I only do like 5-minute open mic spots. And so if I do...
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. And now I get more book shows. Maybe, I don't know, local scene's a little... And I don't have a great tape to send off to be like, can you book me? I just kind of have to skate by on people who already know me. But
you did a 4x3, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have legally obligated to tell you that 2 years ago, I filmed 10 minutes with 4x3 Productions, and they own the rights to that video, and until they publish it, I have to keep mentioning them.
Oh, it still hasn't been published. Yeah,
nope.
I was gonna say I hadn't seen it, but yeah, that is.
Yeah,
I think that the video thing is like, you're never gonna get one that you're happy with.
Yeah, and it's so like, frustrating because that was one that I was happy with. That was 10 minutes I had done like.
Yeah, I was there for that. It was good.
Yeah, 3 or 4 times a week for like 4 months. I honed
ready.
It. I had it. I could probably still do that set off the top of my head, but I don't know if I'm ever gonna get the clip. I'd love it if I did. But.
That's weird. Yeah, that's like that. I've kind of wanted somebody else to film my set for me, do one of those, or like even a dry bar because I can do clean. But that's what I've heard is people you just wait forever.
Yeah,
that you can't do anything, and it's like, well, that's not very empowering. The whole point is to get a good video. Yeah, and you're just waiting like 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I like about Clay Jones, our number one fan. I did that so loud into this mic. I did that is so loud into this mic. I'm sorry.
Just now?
Ryan later. Yeah.
He searches for his name, so he'll find these places.
I mean, I'm apologizing to you in the future when you're editing this, and you have to hear that.
Oh, that's right. I know how to do compression and stuff.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
But he recorded... We did the Model Face show after the hurricane, and he recorded the whole show, and then like 2 days later sent me a fully edited version of it, and he had changed it to black and white and grayscale because he was like, there's too much visual noise, and he wanted to make it look good, and it just
he did that because of me. He saw that I clipped it the next day and went to black and white.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's a good tape.
I don't know why I had to like make that about me, but
have to make sure that his influence.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah. You just want your little credit. You want your little bit of attention.
Yeah, I mean that's the concept that's the real reason for the podcast, you know. But you were happy with the video? Turned out good?
Yeah, video turned out good. I think.
There you go. You got it. Send it out.
I don't know.
It's like you're never gonna be.
Yeah, it's a good
You're
video.
never gonna be like.
It's quality. It sounds
great.
nice. The crowd like wasn't laughing as much as I would have liked them to.
Well, that I see. I was on that show, and I mean, I talked to Clay about this. Like, I put my phone on the. It's very hard to get a good mix of the crowd laughing, and so that tape is like has a really amazing clear off the board microphone sound, but the laughter didn't really make it into the recording, so it's just kind of not. The Laughing Skull will do that too. I don't know if you've gone and bought a tape from them, but they don't mix the laughs in. Like it's people will. Yeah, so then when you're watching it back, you're like, they laughed more than that. And then I had my phone recording that was there, and I indeed was able to like sync it up, and there were more laughs than you heard on the tape. So it's not that you remembered it different. It's just that Clay really sucks at doing it. No, it's
Yeah, I mean, but it's like if I want to send out a tape, I want something where. Because I'm also doing so many like this thing just happened jokes.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's representative of me. Maybe it is. Maybe it is like, oh, this was like less than a month after this big life-changing event, and I had so many funny things to say.
I think like you're at the point where you should be doing that. I mean, you didn't ask me, but like, you know, you're good, you're funny. The thing that just happened this week that you got a big pop out of, I don't know if you can top that by like. There's just something about saying something the same way for months where it's like it's less authentic. Like I almost think that those moments like maybe are the real you more, you know. I mean, I guess on the other hand, you might want to be like, here's what my act looks like for the show I'm trying to get booked for. Yeah. But I don't think that really matters as much as like, here's me alive, getting the laughs, talking about, you know, just resonating with the room.
And I am trying to only tour doing kava bars. That is I love. Listen, if we had opium dens, I would be on that circuit. I don't like kava. I don't like downers. I like people who are on them because they have no choice but to listen.
Yeah, you can like talk circles around them, and they're just like.
I don't want to talk circles. I just want to. I want to take them on a little journey, like put them on a leash and be like, "I'm gonna."
We're gonna go places.
We're gonna go places. It's gonna get weird.
I'm on uppers. You're on downers.
Yeah.
I'll be leading the way. Clearly.
Land of the blind. The guy with the 8-ball is king. I don't.
I do like the rooms like that. Like I enjoy doing the kava bar. Like I mean, I was talking about this with I was going back through some footage with Kobel and Zalata and talking about how the Odd. I guess they were saying that their Monday mic down there underground is a place that they can enjoy bombing, and that's kind of how I feel about the Odd. You know, which is like I'm the least desperate for a laugh every 20 seconds there. Like it really just feels like a place where you can kind of be like, here's what happened. But then the sets that I have where it clicks in, like the set I had just this week, I was like, I think those are like probably my favorite sets. Like it's such a cool small room, and it's so it doesn't always line up, but I don't know, that it feels more like authentically me there than like when the further I get from home, the more I'm like, all right, let's do the act, you know?
Yeah,
and they can almost feel like pressing play on who I was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you wrote the joke.
Yeah.
I feel that.
And you have to bring that into this different place.
Yeah, and whenever I've been encountering that with some of my bits, some like, and I've really enjoyed just kind of scrapping them. I've always loved to kill my darlings.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this like 5-minute thing that I worked on for months. It was this big long interconnected bit, and it had callbacks and everything. And then I look at it 6 months later, and I'm like, I like this one-liner.
Mm-hmm.
and the rest can go
perfect
in the trash.
Yeah, because you're evolving. So like you the next version of that one-liner, or even if you just scrap it all together, it's going to be better. Yeah. It's almost like if you hold on to that. I've seen that happen, and I've been guilty of that, where you're like doing a joke too long. And then that's the cool thing about so many new comics is you see them getting up every week trying new stuff, and then you start to be like, shit, I gotta say
I gotta try more. Yeah, that's the fun part about running an open mic, because I get to see that every week, and it's everyone, and I'm in there for it the whole time.
You like it?
Do I like it? I think I like it in concept. I like what Disclaimer does, where it's they have 4 people running it.
Yeah, and a rotating host.
Rotating host, not all and all of that. And as much as I love like the legacy of the Odd being like this very personality driven mic, I think there's a good reason why towards the end you could kind of tell James didn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
Like I haven't even been doing it a year yet, and I'm like, I could fucking kill it. Like that.
It's as good as it's ever been, though. I mean, just the way you've put an aisle down the middle, and then you have a nice light. I mean, just those little things really do. It feels like it runs like clockwork.
Yeah, and I'd love to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Instead of working.
You're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is making you like better. Like it's accelerating your. Like I remember James, like after he hosted that for a year, was like, holy shit! Like James has always been funny. It's been annoying. He was like the first of my class to get on all the shows, Me and Baby George were like, oh, James on another flyer? Fuck this guy. I've always loved James, not fuck James. But I saw how like doing those little ad libs between comics and running a show like that really, because he's always been a great writer. But then after he hosted the Odd for a year, it was like, holy shit, James is like really
he's
fully
quick.
Formed now. Yeah. So that's like what's happening, even though it might feel like the drudgery.
Yeah. I guess I do have I'm finally letting the audience talk during my set. When I first started, I would just scream at them. I would straight up just start screaming, "Shut the fuck up!" I don't know if you were ever there when I did that, but that was how I.
When you started hosting it?
No, when I started doing comedy, like that was how I handled hecklers. Was I would just scream, "Shut the fuck up!" until they left.
I don't recall that, but
yeah, it only happened a couple times. There aren't a lot of hecklers in this town.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
But I finally let people start talking during my set. And I think it is largely because I'm getting up on stage, and for hosting, it's something, it was like a bit that I wrote for hosting because I was so tired of getting up and being like, I'm bringing all the energy. And I was like, you fuckers, give me something to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that cold start, it's like, I can see why you might not be thrilled about doing it for like a bunch more years, but
yeah,
thank you for your service. It's really, it's really just amazing. That's like when I was on my month off, I was like, that's all I want to do is like go back to the Odd Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays is just the perfect. You get a little more time at the Odd, you get the bigger piece, and then you like try to punch it up, get it into 4 tighter minutes for a more mainstream-ish room on Wednesday night. Like just the back-to-back is just really nice. Root Bar, it was like barf it all out at Root Bar and then the Odd, but now the Odd is the first.
Yeah, now everyone's barfing at my show.
Yeah, we don't get the Sunday version to like the really shitty version of the.
Yeah. And now we also have, there's Hot Seat on Monday. You can go puke it up at Hot
I do
Seat.
Mondays are just a hard night for me to get out, but
yeah,
I like Static Age, so I should. Have you been going to that, the Monday?
No.
Yeah.
I wasn't going on principle for a while, and I think the principle changed. So I'll probably stop in and see how it's going. I'm also excited. I haven't been able to make it out yet, but the Funny or Nah that Kayla Clark and Ryan Gordon have been doing at Haywood's Best.
Yeah.
It's like a Friday night show, 7 to 10. I've been really wanting to get out for that. Mostly because I'd love to do comedy at a place that serves coffee again.
Yeah, I went by. I did Burger Bar last Friday, and then I went by there afterwards, and it was like there's like a bunch of comics waiting to go. It looked cool, but I was like, I'm just gonna leave.
Just gonna go home.
Yeah, I did a set. It was great. I don't need to like.
Yeah, don't push it because the second one's not going to be as much. It's like
I'm just getting to that point because I've always been like, however many reps, always say yes to a rep no matter what. And I'm kind of just now going like, preserve the love of it. Like less can be more as far as like you got to say yes to everything at first, but then. Now it's like, okay, do I need to like drive to Charlotte to do a brewery gig for no one that's paying attention. Like, I've done some things in the last few years that have made me like they take away from my enthusiasm. Whereas like going to the Odd on a Tuesday night always makes me glad I'm doing comedy, even if I don't do well.
Aw.
And it's only like 15-minute drive too, so you're not like I spent a whole tank of gas and
Yeah.
God,
one time. So the first time I went on tour, I went with Moira Gorey. Did I tell this story on the podcast last time?
Not
I don't.
yet.
I hate
I don't
to
think so.
double
I don't
up.
think so.
But so I went. Moira Gorey, comic, was local. She took me under her wing when I first started, and she was like, "I'm going to go on tour. You should come with me."
Legend. She's been
amazing.
pops up all the time on this podcast.
Yeah, and she
started after me, eclipsed me in a matter of days. I'm bombing after Moira immediately.
Yeah,
after she starts.
Have you met her?
No.
You never had a chance.
Honored to every time. Honored. It was
But so she took me out and she was like, "We're gonna stop in Atlanta and then we're gonna go down to Pensacola. We're gonna do like 4 shows." And the first 2 shows got canceled for reasons that I think I remember why, but I don't want to say why because I think it might get someone in trouble. So those shows got canceled. So then we go down to Pensacola. We have 2 shows booked in Pensacola. So we just went straight down. We left a day later, so it's like 8-hour drive down to Florida. We get there just in time for the show. We were told it was at a bar in the back of a Lebanese restaurant, and it was like this really nice thing. They had these really professional flyers. I was excited. We get there. Turns out what they meant by bar at the back of a Lebanese restaurant was it's the alleyway behind the Lebanese restaurant. On the other side is a sports bar, and this alleyway is its own business that's a hookah bar. Get there. It's also St. Patrick's Day. Moira and I are too gay to know it's St. Patrick's Day. We're walking up. We get into the show. It's just the host, his buddy, and and a woman that I think he was dating by how much she laughed at his set. Because it was not that funny.
Yeah, then they hadn't been together long too.
Not long. She was still trying to impress him.
Yeah, she wasn't like a year in.
Yeah, this is like 2 months, and so we do. That was it, and I had to do 30 minutes in front of them. I did my time. The dude paid us like $100 each. Out of pocket. There was no ticket sales. This was just his hobby, was tricking comics. And then so we have one more show in Pensacola, and it's this really great connection Moira has, and so it's like I'm excited because she's like, oh yeah, this guy also runs like Pensacola Pride, and he's trying to get like comics to come down for Pride. This could be like a good audition for you, and I'm so excited. And it's after that show, we go back to the motel room that's just covered in like cigarette burns and ticks, and I'm laying down in this shitty motel mattress, and I'm like, tomorrow will be better. And I'm closing my eyes, and right as I close my eyes, I hear Moira go, "Hey, Julia." And I say, "Yes, Moira." And she is like, "The show tomorrow?" And I said, "Uh-huh." And she said, "The booker had a heart attack. It's canceled." So, yeah, drove collectively like 16 hours to do 30 minutes in an alleyway in front of 2 people while there was a St. Patrick's Day crowd just like walking in the street, heckling us. You ever been heckled by someone who you can't see behind you? You can't even make fun of them for dressing like a faggot, because how can you know?
I mean, if you had it to do over again, would you go or would you not go?
If I had to do it, I would go for the story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the story. Moira was there. I feel like if I'm alone, it's a lot less have been worth it. You experience that adventure together.
Yeah.
I mean, this is that book, Running the Light. This is like, there's a lot of like the hotel room you described. Just a lot of like the comedy cliche, things that are actually true.
Yeah.
But just how weird it is. Yeah. Some guy like pays you out of. It's just like you would never. No other path in life would lead you to these
these
destinations.
freaks.
Yeah, but then that feeds back into the comedy.
Yeah.
So it's like this feedback loop of like those experiences.
You chose the path of the bit, and now the bit is
right.
consuming your life.
Exactly.
I think I didn't run into nearly as many just weirdos on the side of the street as I did after I started doing comedy.
Yeah.
It was like a sharp uptick.
Yeah, your vibrate, like your aura, or there's some sort of.
Yeah, just like they could see it, like painted in the sky above my head. I'm looking for material.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I really want to get Moira on this podcast.
I know
she's doing all right up there.
Yeah, I think she's doing okay.
Yeah.
Every time I talk to her, she's like, "Good news," and so it's like that's great. I know she wants to come down. I'm sure she'd love to be on this podcast.
Yeah.
And now that I'm saying it on recording, it's pressuring her.
No, she said she'd do it. She just hasn't been here since I've started. I don't think she's been back this year, has she? Yeah. So
she hasn't been back since she left. Like, yeah.
She's also jammed with me, and she's on the list of comedians that have
made noise in your shed.
Exactly. Yeah. Should get on that list.
Fine.
Yeah, I think on the last podcast you said, "Oh, I just play bass and yell," and I was like, "Perfect. I'll play drum." That's exactly what I would much rather do that than wagon wheel or what Yeah.
I don't even know how to play wagon wheel.
Yeah, good. I don't play it either. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, do you want to travel more? Like what you talked about, wanting to get a video, or at least being aware that might be something that like a next step would be. Like, do you have like?
What I want to do.
I think it's very cool, by the way, too, that you didn't post like all your videos of your sets during your first like year or two of comedy. There's nothing that.
There's no way. Like they're all.
It drives me more crazy than like everyone's first open mic is on the feed. It's like wait,
yeah, it's not good yet.
You're making it so nobody looks at any of the shit now.
Yeah, I have a lot. It is all posted online. I'll say that, but it's all unlisted, and it was only like that so I could send it to my cousin. Like that was the only reason I posted it.
Oh wait, you do post your sets online?
Completely unlisted. No way for you to find them unless I send you the link. Yes.
That's weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
not attached to you. You're like, I have a use case that involves one person, so I'm anonymously.
Yeah, exactly. It's also like it's useful to have it like on
app?
YouTube, like just to post them on unlisted on YouTube, so that they can't be searched, or like just so that only you can see it, and so that way, like, because I've had files corrupt, computer gets damaged, lose my phone.
Totally.
Like
same boat. Put it in the cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
Then
just
your
like
laptop gets stolen and you don't lose something that might be a treasure to you when you're old. Wait, who is this one person that
my cousin Liv? I don't think she watches podcasts, so she probably has never seen this, but never gonna see this. But yeah, no, it's
you should tell this person about the podcast. They'd probably watch it. You don't want. You just want them.
Yeah, I
just want her to see you anonymously.
I love my relationship with my family being. I'll send you a link on occasion to me talking for 5 minutes, and then I'll see you at a wedding, and then a funeral, and then another funeral. Like that's my.
You don't want the long form.
I mean, I'd love it. Like, here's the thing. I think if it wasn't for social media, I would be everyone's favorite, and they would hear from me all the time. I hate phones and I hate messaging apps.
Same.
Like, I don't like having a little rectangle in my, because like this, it's not next to me, but like that little bullshit, it creates an obligation of just like being present. And it's like, oh, I'm supposed to send a how are you doing text, and then you tell me how you're doing, right? I want to write letters. Because I don't how am I doing today? I'm fine. Don't talk to me. Let me go back to my little desk and I'll write to you about what's been going on this month. I'd much rather that be my interaction with people, but it's so hard to get anyone on board.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, what's your address? And then I send a letter, and then I don't hear back. Or which is the more realistic one, which is like someone asks me for my address, and I start getting letters that they're writing me from boot camp for like a few months, and it's like, and I'm reading the letters, and they're all
military boot camp.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Like I knew this guy who joined the Marines, and he gave me his grandmother's rosary and wrote me letters for a few months, and I didn't realize that meant he was in love with me.
Probably just sends all of his casual friends this.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's just normal. You know, sometimes people send you sentimental things and write you letters and and beg to see you when their boot camp term ends, and then you just stop replying to their letters because you just kind of get busy with life.
Yeah, sometimes people just wear a locket around their neck with a little picture of you in it. And then every day they suffer through boot camp, and you're the only guiding light that keeps. Yeah. It's just what people do with a lot of their friends. I'm sure.
It's completely casual.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I dabble. Like, I work in software for a living, so it's like I am really good with computers. So I agree with everything you said, but if I can use this hardware and software to get me into more rooms, you know, because I want to be in the rooms, having the experiences, trying to find my voice before I'm 45, so it's like there's no reason for me. I'll wait till I'll do a video when I'm really round and 55. It's like, no, you know, it's time. I've been doing it for 9 years. I need to, like, you know, get out there and do it. So it's a means to an end. But yeah, I mean, I'll never forget looking at it like after the hurricane, after I hadn't looked at it, and there was like a washed over me the sadness of like how addicted I was to this false version of me, and the numbers associated with posts. It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And I think that we would be better off if it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
But it is. And then you've got people that can just like rock the influencer thing so hard, and then they're like, oh, I'll kind of figure out jokes, but I've just got everybody enamored with me because I'm able to do online so well. Like Cody's interesting that way because he's, you know, he doesn't fuck with any of that.
Yeah, just occasionally he posts like a Bandcamp rip.
Yeah.
Did you see his most recent Bandcamp thing? It was done on my porch.
I saw that, and I make a point not to listen. Like, I was at the filming of his special. Cody's like one of my favorites, you know, ever. But I don't really listen to Cody. I've noticed so many people in our scene copying him,
worship him, yeah.
That and picking up, like, I don't mind the worshiping, but they're doing his cadence and his moves, and I've just seen that happen so much. You don't do that, but I see that happen so much that I don't want to really be lying around with Cody in my AirPods because I don't want.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Like, I don't think I'm ripping off Cody.
Yeah,
but a lot of us are.
Yeah,
so I didn't listen for that reason.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
That's fair.
If I'm gonna be influenced by somebody, I want it to be like Richard Pryor, somebody that's like dead, and there's no way my distorted reflection of that would be my own because I could never do it. You know, so I try to not let myself be influenced by people that Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm kind of, because once it gets in there,
it's hard to get it out. Yeah. I was like, I didn't copy Cody super hard. There was just like one move that he had that I really liked, which was when he would put the hand in the chamber behind his back and talk into the floor. And then when he was coming up to a big thing, he would just like,
yeah.
I liked that. And I took it for a second.
Yeah.
I was watching back the tape from the Hurricane comedy show. And I was listening to myself and I was like, yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Josh Johnson lately. And it's
Josh Johnson's awesome.
Yeah.
You're talking about that, not the cool, not needing to laugh for a while. I think Josh is cool.
He's very good at it, but I'm so doing his cadence. I even, like, there was a point where I even said dude, and I didn't say dude like I do, which is like dude. I said dude, like the way that he says it.
Yeah. That's cool that you could notice that though. That's like Shane Gillis, you know. That's I like Shane Gillis's comedy, but every single white dude in the region is just so I'm like, I can't listen to this anymore because it's like it's too pervasively. If I am going to be ripping somebody off, it should be obscure. Because that's cool to rip off obscure people. It's not cool to rip off the same person everybody's. That's like my music learnings, you know. Rip off some obscure person from 100 years ago nobody's heard of. That's great.
I wish, like, people talk about Shane Gillis around me all the time. I wish I knew who that was.
Yeah.
Every time I try to watch one of his sets, I turn it off 2 minutes in because I'm like, I'm bored.
Yeah, he's so bro. He presents as so bro. I think he's a brilliant writer. I mean, I can't believe he's like the biggest comedian in the world. So I'm not like, you don't need, like, I'm glad you don't like him. Like, less people should. He's, you know, and he's in the whole like Rogan Bros camp. So I don't know why I'm even mentioning his name, honestly. But he's made me laugh a lot.
Yeah.
And actually, we went to see him in Charlotte last year. I took Emily, and she was like, "This guy." I was like, "No, he's great. It's gonna be cool." And then we went, and his whole audience was just like 28-year-old bros that were like drunk, and she was like, "What the fuck did you bring me to?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't know why. I should just stop saying his name. I should just enjoy him quietly."
Yeah, I mean, we all have our little problematic faves,
Guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
Josh Johnson, though, I mean, I think that's just a really cool voice. Like what we were talking about starting quiet and not. Oh, they haven't laughed for 20 seconds, and then I hear me start to kind of try to push the words, try to make something happen, but there's no punchline, and then the audience is like, why are you starting to yell, Like, Josh is just like, it's that cool factor, just like staying in it. Like, there might be a laugh, but it'll happen when it happens. Yeah. And that makes the audience feel like they're in good hands, and they're going to be patient for the laugh. It's like a silent... it's like confidence can be like loud and big, but confidence can also be like the opposite, chill and small.
And I like that. I think it's been really cool to see that, because I've been watching him for a few years now, and I think it's like a post-COVID shift. I actually after I didn't see the Paramount special. That's like the one thing I haven't seen. But it was like very recent, like especially with him posting like all of his sets online now. Mm-hmm. As opposed to like what he used to do, which was a lot more like, I'm a frantic nerd, and like I that's what I fell in love with. But
that's really crazy. I didn't even know there was like a iteration that was shattered. Like there's a former version of him that has a different tone.
I mean, he grew up like he's been putting out comedy. I think his first release was in like 2016.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he's been putting.
I just know the Right Now stuff.
Yeah, he's getting big now, and he should. I think he's probably one of the modern comics that I've been watching. I think he's definitely one of the best writers, especially for like the up and coming.
Yeah. Isn't he like affiliated with the Daily Show or something like that? I thought he had like a major cred.
Yeah, he was on the Daily Show.
Which I don't really follow, but I think I just found out about him like in the last few months, and I remember I thought I saw he's got like a real big cred. So I didn't even know that he had a background. He had put out specials or anything like that. Yeah. But he feels like what we were talking about when you film yourself, do you want to do that? Like you did the 4x whatever that thing's called. And it's like, you have that 10 minutes, the beats, you do it. That's a cool way to do it. But then there's also the like capturing what happened this week or that experience on the bus today, because a lot of times, if you're still telling that next month, it's not going to hit as hard, Yeah,
like, you're not having as much fun with it because you're not entertained by it
right. And you can craft. You can craft the words, but if you're not having as much fun, there's not any amount of like mechanical word shit you can do with it. So I think, I don't know. I don't really have a point, but that's just something I think a lot about, like trying to lean into that. I feel like the reels and everything, comedy is kind of becoming a bit more like just throw it up right now, and I had worried about burning stuff, but now I'm like, I don't know. Nobody's watching all my videos, memorizing everything, and buying a ticket with my name on it. Just just throw the sketches up online, if that makes you happy.
And like I burn my own material without posting it online. Like there's so much stuff I just don't do anymore because like even though it was good when I was doing it, like I just don't enjoy those bits anymore.
Yeah. Do you record? Do you have some way to capture them? I scrapbook them for.
Yeah, I have like a
live forever.
My voice memos on my phone, largely, and then occasionally I'll like record a set when I'm doing something bigger. Yeah. I haven't done that in a while though. I always want to record more, just because I want to. You asked earlier like if I want to get on the road and everything, and then we kind of got distracted. I think my answer to that is I want to tour because I want to see what that's like. Yeah. And also because I really want to roll these dice on comedy. I've been writing my whole life. That's all I've ever wanted to do is write and write and write and write. And comedy feels like something that could be very good for opening like a door or a window where I might not be doing stand-up in 20 years, but maybe I'm like, I don't know, writing for SNL. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like that's
and what other type of writing would you have an audience for? Like, I mean, people love comedy right now. Like, if you're writing short stories and poems, it's like, it's just not as many. That's going to be harder to.
Like, if you're not.
And you're not going to see them reading it, so you're not going to. You can tell immediately what's working.
Yeah. The last time someone was able to, like, get somewhere off of a short story was, like, 2018, Catherine Rupinian published Cat Person in The New Yorker. and it was just like so perfectly lined up, where it's a story about a woman going on a date with a shitty guy, and at the same time as like the Me Too movement, and there's all these new conversations about like what is consent, and like the like sexual dynamics and like the modern dating scene, and like all of these things are happening, and it was just like so perfectly timed. And then
the last successful short story,
yeah,
like
the last
storm.
successful short story, and then she published, and then like had all this attention on her, and then immediately was like being like got a book deal. But I read it. I read oh god, it was Catherine Rupinian, You Know You Want This. And I read it, and this is my hot take that's gonna upset maybe 5 people globally. I think it sucked. And looking back, I don't think you're not involved in this conversation anymore. Cat Person was a mid short story. It was just in a good place at a good time, and it's incredibly well timed. It's a fine short story. I think any kind of like praise for it as being like the mouthpiece of a generation, I really do think we need to stop saying like all these cishet white women are like the peak of femininity. Anyways, that's my hot take. I'll get canceled about that in a few years, but it's fine.
No, I like it. And I think a lot of that applies to comedy too, just the context and the, like you might have a style of humor that isn't resonating with this time, but if you hold on to that, maybe in 5 or 10 years, like there's so much randomness involved. And I mean, I have none of my goals really involve people. I want to make the people in the room laugh if I can, but it's like, as far as like getting a giant audience, I don't really think about it that way. I try to build everything so it's, even if nobody pays attention to it, it's still fun. Like I'll have this conversation for later. I'm enjoying this,
Yeah, no.
I had a great time on Wednesday and Tuesday this week. But I don't know. I'm in a different phase of life than like all y'all too. Except for those 4 older, creepy guys.
Yeah, except for and all the other dads. Kerry Goff's not creepy, but he's like a dad.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so he's kind of like settled into his lane, where he kind of, instead of putting that weekly energy into going out 3 nights like I do, he has to run the show. So all that energy goes into one night.
And it's great, and he's a little darling star every time he gets up.
Yeah, and his show, I mean, he knows how to dial a room in. It's just incredible. Yeah. It's been a time. Yeah. How long do you usually record for? I was just gonna say, I usually go until I feel it. We've been doing this for an hour and 38 minutes, and it's 4:59, so I think it's a good place to.
Hell yeah! I would love a cigarette.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me on.
All right. Bye bye.